Yeah, if you want to. It doesn't matter either way. Okay. Does it matter if I move this to anybody? Okay. Well, thanks everybody for coming. I have with me Jennifer Friday and Jeff Mersaw regarding some veto overrides. We're here to announce that we're going to assemble the Senate tomorrow to do veto overrides of some of the legislation that he vetoed at the end of last session. I'm here specifically to talk about my bill, SB 312, which dealt with PFAS remediation. Governor Evers and his DNR continue to spread PFAS throughout the state. And with his veto of SB 312, he plans to turn around and punish the people whose land he's contaminated. For 6 years, Governor Evers has spread biosolids onto farm fields containing up to 150,000 parts per trillion. With heartless bureaucratic processing, Wisconsin will adopt a 4 part per trillion standard and put them on the hook as pollution emitters. The same will happen to anyone living near an airport like in French Island, in La Crosse, and anyone living in a pollution plume like in the town of Peshtigo. It also will affect anyone who lives in a subdivision that happens to be on farmland that took biosolids. Current law does not care how PFAS got into your property, only that it exists in your property. Current law treats innocent landowners the same way as the point source polluter or manufacturer. We are switching from a legal paradigm that did not consider PFAS to be hazardous to a legal paradigm that does. SB 312 makes the distinction to protect innocent landowners from impending draconian bureaucratic domination. Governor Evers vetoed those protections. Now Governor Evers demands cash, claiming that cash means solutions, but cash alone does not. 2 years ago, Governor Evers put $10 million into the Well Compensation Fund from federal COVID money. In the last 2 years, 598 people have used the program. Of that, only 26 people used it for PFAS contamination. On French Island alone, there are some 1,600 contaminated wells. There is still $2.3 million left in the fund. The reason the fund is underutilized is obvious. Innocent landowners won't use grant allocations because they know under current law that disclosures to the DNR will result in their personal liability. And even if the DNR decides not to order innocent landowners into remediation at their expense, they still have to disclose their status to their bank and potential buyers. Trying to fix their problem with government subsidy alone will cause financial ruin, as their banks refuse to renew their mortgages and their land value plummets to pennies on the dollar. I and Senator Coles spoke directly to Governor Evers and the DNR lawyers about the impending legal tragedy for the innocent. They agreed with my analysis. However, they demanded DNR authority not to be changed, and that traditional legal remedies should continue for innocent landowners. In no uncertain terms, they asserted the appropriate remedy for innocent landowners is for neighbor to sue neighbor against international corporations in multi-decadal litigation. Any state allocation without terms will become a DNR slush fund to enforce orders and bludgeon the innocent. That's obnoxious and wrong. Tomorrow we will vote to overturn Governor Evers' veto that prevented the legal protections and necessary funding to truly resolve PFAS issues in Wisconsin. If money alone was the key, Governor Evers could again use part of the approximate $1.5 billion he still has in COVID funds like he did previously. He does not do that because his position on PFAS is one of cruel demagoguery. I and the Republican legislature will seek to provide true help to Wisconsinites. It means legal protections to the innocent landowners so that they aren't afraid in taking assistance. It means holding the right people accountable. And with me today is Jennifer Friday, who's the town chairwoman of the town of Peshtigo, one of the hardest hit places, in the state really, regarding PFAS. Jennifer, go ahead.
As stated, my name is Jennifer Friday. I have been a town of Peshtigo resident since 2015 and was voted in as town chairperson just over a year ago. In 2017, a portion of the town was notified of PFAS contamination, and I, along with over 200 other property owners, have been receiving bottled water for a number of years now. I have studied Senate Bill 312. I have had discussions with Senator Wimberger's office, reviewed the Wisconsin Legislative Council memoranda at length, exchanged correspondence with Governor Evers, and our Town of Peshtigo board subsequently passed a resolution in support of SB 312. Our town residents are looking to our local government for assistance in dealing with the PFAS contamination. They expect the town to offer testing and a clean water solution. With an average cost of $500 per test and roughly 2,500 parcels, that math comes to $1.25 million. Our town does not have that kind of financial capability when our total revenue last year was just under $1.2 million. Not to mention funding a clean water solution in the event of contaminated private wells. SB 312 provides necessary roadmap to releasing the allotted $125 million of taxpayer dollars that has been set aside. It protects innocent landowners, which we have in our town. Property owners who legally allowed biosolids to be spread. Property owners who may be facing contamination without an unidentified responsible party. They deserve protection. I voted for Governor Evers twice, but he's made some missteps along the way. And while I hope he finds his footing soon, I am looking to the legislature to right his wrong in reference to SB 312. Every reason cited in Governor Evers' veto message was rhetoric spewed by the environmental groups and their activists, and discredited by the nonpartisan Legislative Council. SB 312 will not prevent corporate polluters from being held accountable. SB 312 will not prohibit DNR from taking action to protect public health and the environment under the state spills law. And that's an important one to our community, as the spills law is what has allowed DNR to enforce action upon our responsible party. What SB 312 does, what it does do, is provide a crucial, necessary distinction between responsible polluters and innocent landowners. Innocent landowners deserve protection, even if an environmental group states that DNR has never brought enforcement action against a farmer who unknowingly spread biosolids containing PFAS. If they've never done it before, then there should be no issue with making a rule that it cannot be done in the future. SB 312 is supported by nonpartisan entities such as Wisconsin Towns Association, League of Wisconsin Municipalities, Wisconsin Counties Association, and PFAS-contaminated town of Peshtigo. I encourage the Wisconsin legislature to override Governor Evers' veto, to ignore the flashy rhetoric used to describe SB 312 as pro-polluter and poison pill, and see it for what it really is: a lifeline for residents living in PFAS-contaminated areas to testing and subsequently clean water. Protect Wisconsinites who meet the innocent landowner criteria. Protect Wisconsinites who have no responsible party from whom to receive retribution. Back in the day, a handshake and a promise may have been enough to protect those who needed it. But today is the day that protections need to be in writing, cemented into legislation, as people, positions, and attitudes change. What has never been done in the past could very well happen tomorrow. Clean water should be nonpartisan, and yet those same people who make that claim ignore nonpartisan analysis, such as that from the Legislative Council, and nonpartisan support, such as that from the town of Peshtigo. SB 312 is truly a compromise bill that has been many months in the making and deserves to see the finish line to come to fruition. I implore the Wisconsin legislature to override the governor's veto so that SB 312 can be put into action, which will in turn provide safeguards for the spending of the $125 million allotted taxpayer money to go to combating PFAS while holding corporate polluters responsible at the same time. Thank you for listening to this community leader.
If you have any questions, we'd be happy to take them.
Yeah, I actually just was forwarded something else from the governor's office about a lawsuit to the legislature regarding both, or not both, but PFAS funds and as well as the money to help hospital closures in western Wisconsin and the nearly $50 million to improve the literacy in K through 12 schools. So could someone maybe provide, I don't know if you have a rebuttal for that, I don't know if you guys moved this at a time from today?
Well, I really didn't know about it, but in a specific way, but I kind of know some of the maneuvering that happens. In the budget, there is money set aside, but not given to a particular agency. It's just kind of set aside in an account. Then the legislature expects the executive branch to come to us with a particular plan. And when they have a particular plan, then we would distribute the money accordingly. The reason it's done that way is because if we were to just grant a lump sum of money without any specific direction, well, then it can be kind of maneuvered around in ways that the legislature might not have intended. And since the legislature is the one that holds the purse and the executive branch is the one that's supposed to execute on it, things become incongruent. So when it came to the PFAS specifically, $125 million is a lot of money. So if there's money just handed over in a lump sum without any particular discernible plan, and especially without the legal protections, then how many agents can that hire to go around and do mapping to find out and execute search warrants on people to discover where their PFAS is, and then issue them remediation citations? So there's a problem here of maintaining authority as to how that money would be used. And under the circumstance, since the only thing at issue with SB 312 is going to be the nature of who to enforce remediation orders on, it can only be presumed that the $125 million would be used to order innocent landowners around.
I know I actually spoke with the governor today when he was in jail, and one thing that was brought up was, he was pretty quick to mention with PFAS and Joint Finance Committee, there was a meeting that was called that he attempted to call for last week that there was no action taken. So can you talk a little more with that and kind of where this is going to go from here, specifically with tomorrow?
Sure. We've done our best efforts, not only with the PFAS, but with the hospital situation on the western side of Wisconsin, to distribute money that's appropriately needed. Governor Evers obviously vetoed that. Now the dynamic is, now that Governor Evers has vetoed those things, he suddenly wants to order the Finance Committee to hold meetings and just release cash without any sort of guide rails on it. That's nice that he's doing that. a political move because he's vetoed the things that would have released that money. He wants to do it unilaterally without any sort of negotiation. Now, when he's calling on the Finance Committee to meet and do something, that's all he's doing is calling on the Finance Committee to meet and do something. In fact, he's demanding it. But we are a co-equal branch of government, and it is as unusual and inappropriate for the governor to simply decide to call everyone to a meeting and demand that they do something, as it would be for the legislature to demand the governor do something. You're going to do this now because we have said you're going to do it. That's inappropriate. It doesn't exactly create a dynamic of bipartisanship or compromise in any way to whatever his goals are. His demands have not been something that have been brought to at least my attention, especially regarding PFAS, even though I was the drafter. It would be nice if you would pick up the phone or have his staff meet with my staff to discuss what his particular aims are, but I don't think that's really the goal. I think he just wants essentially a slush fund of $125 million.
And if the issue that you have is, a lack of collaboration, it sounds like from the executive branch, then why go the route of overriding the veto rather than doing something else? And what would the plan be if the veto override doesn't work?
I have always only had one particular goal in SB 312, and that was protecting innocent landowners. How you want to spend money, or what would be an appropriate designation of funds, is kind of something that not everybody knows is the right answer at this point, or how much should be appropriated. I have some ideas, and those ideas were in SB 312. So did Senator Coles and Representative Mursaw. But that one request that we protect innocent landowners, I wasn't stuck on any particular language either. I said to the DNR and to Governor Evers, if you have particular language that would make you feel more comfortable just to not hold innocent landowners accountable, please provide it. And over the course of several months, they never provided it. In fact, they said they were not going to provide it because they didn't want to change that legal paradigm. And I just think that's awful because in a general sense, when you buy a property, you're supposed to go and figure out what's there. So if you're going to buy a solvent factory or a place that was that might be a dry cleaner, you're supposed to go and figure out if that's a situation where you might be on the hook for the pollution emitting from it. But PFAS was not one of those chemicals that was on the list of things that might put you on the hook. So no one even knew to look for it. So now we're changing from when it was not by law designated as hazardous to a situation where now it is designated as hazardous, and people who had no reason to even try and figure out that answer are suddenly going to be finding themselves with that pollutant on their property at no fault of their own, and they could not have predicted it. So that was the only sticking point I ever had, was making sure innocent landowners were protected, and I wasn't stuck on the language that might have accomplished it as long as the language did that. So this route of overturning the veto is kind of the only way at this point, because that simple act of protecting the innocent, Governor Evers won't do.
Slightly off topic from the PFAS, but in a way I see it like bulletin board here with stuff with education. Something else that Governor Evers talked about today, and again more specifically towards the Finance Committee, was that literacy bill which was passed. Even though I know there was some partial vetoes on his end, but essentially there's $50 million roughly that was set aside to go towards this, and the governor is kind of pushing to get that out. So can you kind of talk about maybe where that's at in terms of, again, whether it's Joint Finance Committee, or is this a whole other can of worms?
No, I think that I'm not too educated on that particular point, so I don't want to overstep my knowledge base, I guess. But if he's requesting something from the Finance Committee, he should put together a proposal that has some specificity in the funding. Some time ago, for whatever reason, the schools decided some time ago, for whatever reason, the schools decided to switch the way that they taught reading, and from phonics to something else, and the proposal is to change it back to phonics. And I don't know what specific training they think they need more money for that they already have. We did increase K-12 education spending by $800 million or $1 billion 9 months ago. So I'm not sure what the want is or why they can't accomplish that task, but I'm sure that's something we would be able to certainly iron out. The veto of the bill, I don't think really relates to that, because that was just expanding the ability to student teach, which for whatever reason he doesn't feel is appropriate.
And back to the veto override, just really quickly. If the veto override were to not go through for some reason, what would the plan be then for the legislature?
Well, I hope to give some assurances to people in the area that this is not something where I'm going to introduce a bill and then just say, well, it didn't work. This is so significant of a problem, not just the practical part of clean drinking water, but the legal part, that something has to be done. I'm confident in the way things are going right now, in so much as there still is money left in the well compensation fund. Governor Evers still has $1.5 billion left to spend in the federal dollars that he could allocate if there was some sort of emergent need. And I'm sure that if there was an emergent need after that money has been spent, the legislature would certainly take action. I'll re-rack SB 312 in the fall, and I'm always open to any sort of suggestions from the administration on their preferred language on protecting innocent landowners.
And do you have any intention of, searching for new language to maybe further the concern of there being loopholes for polluters, for people who intentionally, are responsible parties and did knowingly spread chemicals, since that is part of the issue that, people have had with this bill?
Well, they claim that, and the demagogic part of the rhetoric from the governor is that he claims that it doesn't hold polluters accountable, but doesn't say the second part of that, which is the people that are designated as quote-unquote polluters are innocent landowners under current law. And SB 312 creates that separation between innocent landowners and point source polluters, you could say. So there's no change in liabilities to point source polluters, but to say that SB 312 somehow creates a loophole for polluters is a mischaracterization at minimum, because what he's doing is he's calling innocent landowners polluters, which they are designated by law currently. So I don't know language he would prefer. I'm open to anything the DNR or Governor Evers has to say about creating their preferred language. Unfortunately, they told me flat out that there will be no language to protect innocent landowners. What they literally want to happen is that as a pollution plume migrates through a location, kind of like through the town of Peshtigo, that a neighbor owns a property, the pollution plume migrates through their property into the next property, that one becoming an emitter, and the next neighbor is an emitter into the next neighbor, all the way until it reaches the Bay of Green Bay. And their solution is that neighbors should be suing neighbor jointly and severally against the international corporations in multi-decadal litigation. It's a bad situation. I wish that he would change his tune on that. The next thing that's going to happen is that, as you saw in the news and probably reported on, there are now starting to be some settlements in the southern district of, in the northern district of South Carolina, where the interstate litigation is happening. Wisconsin and Governor Evers and Josh Cole will ultimately want a piece of that. And when they want a piece of that settlement, they're going to have to let those point source polluters out of their liabilities. That's the whole idea of taking a settlement. And when they settle with these point source polluters, what's the dynamic? The dynamic is all of those point source polluters that they want to hold accountable, as they say, will be free from liability, but your innocent landowner will remain liable for whatever's coming off of their property. It's a pretty bad dynamic, in my opinion, and one that I want to stop with SB 312. Okay, well, thanks for coming, and if you have any further questions or data that you need, we're continuously digesting data, so contact Bill over there or my staff, and we'll get you some whatever documents you need. Thanks.
There we go.
Thanks for coming, Jeff.
Hey, yeah, thanks.
Oh,